A very good afternoon to all my dear students and welcome to the lecture of Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2 SY BCom Semester 3. I, Professor Shaurya Shah, welcome you all to my lecture. I hope every student is doing well. Fine. So dear students, in our last lecture, we solved the university sum regarding your liquidation chapter. Today also, we have a set of university sum to be solved. Again, we are solving VNSGO 2019, the same sum which we solved in the last lecture. It is the again optional sum which was in your paper of October-November 2019. I hope every student have the sum with you and you all are clear with the concepts. Fine. Okay. So students, today also we'll be starting with the long sum of Rama Limited. The question I have already given you in Google Classroom. Again, we will be first seeing the sum, what is it all about, and then we'll be starting to solve it. Fine. Okay. So what is given in this sum, students? Again, if this sum is most important, 3 times asked in your university exams, again in last 5 years or 6 years papers, if you understand this sum very clearly, then your around 80% chapter is done, right? There will be no new point after you complete this sum. So do it very carefully. We'll be solving one long sum itself in the entire lecture. Then if time permits, we'll be solving the short sum also, which I have already given to you, right? So again, understand each point very carefully. The calls in areas points is also there and capital deficiency point is also there in this sum. Fine. So we'll be beginning with the reading of the sum first of all. What is given in the sum? First of all, students, on the liability side, you have been given share capital 2015% preference shares of rupees 15 each, right? So 2015% preference shares are given of rupees 10 each, which are fully paid up. Fine, only one type of preference shares. Then you are having, students, 3 types of equity shares. Amongst that, the very first is your 1000 A equity shares of 100 each, as you can see, which is fully paid up. So 1000 into 100 gives you 1 lakh rupees. Then 2000 B type equity shares of 100 each, 50 paid up. So 1 lakh rupees that also. And the third is 3000 C type of equity shares where 40 is paid up per share, right? So 3000 into 120 is your again 1 lakh 20,000, but out of there is calls in areas also. So this is a new point which you need to understand in this sum, students. Calls in areas 10,000 is remaining. Fine. Next is your 15% debentures of 2 lakh rupees as usual. This 3 types also we had seen in the last lecture, how you call money from the various shareholders from which money is pending. Fine. So we'll see in this sum also. Outstanding interest on debentures. Note, here 15% debentures is also given and outstanding interest is also given, right? So both of them will be taken. In addition, if there is a delay in the payment, we will take the additional interest also. Provident fund is given and outstanding salary for 3 months is also given. Fine. So we'll see various kinds of preferential creditors and unsecured creditors. Outstanding income tax 1718 2000 rupees, 1617 3500, right? So again in this sum your outstanding income tax is also given. So the point which we considered, that income tax of previous year to be taken in preferential creditors, will be covered here. Bills payable in P&L debit, right? This is P&L debit. We are not used to P&L debit because it will not be helpful to us, so we don't consider that at all. Fine. Next is on the asset side, students. Asset side, land and building is given, machinery is given, investments are given, stock, data, cash on hand. Fine. Again in adjustments, various kinds of your new values are given that we'll be considering. Expenses of liquidation amounted to 5,000. Okay. Liquidator's remuneration is 4% on asset realized and 2% on payment to unsecured creditors. Amount of calls in areas on C equity share received, right? The point which I told you, that again the calls in areas points will be covered in this sum. That is the most important, you need to understand, right? All the payments were made on 36/2019. If you note, students, our balance sheet date is 31st March 2019. So you are paying all the dues after 3 months, right? So additional interest on debentures will be for 3 months that we'll be considering. I hope it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So we'll be starting with the sum. First, as usual, we'll be starting with the receipt side. Receipt side, you need to write down first the value of cash balance, right? Cash balance is given in the sum. 2, as you can see, 2 cash balance. How much is cash balance? It is 10,000. We saw on the asset side, 2 cash balance 10,000 rupees. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. After your cash balance is completed, we always start with the assets realized. Fine. So second heading will be to assets realized. Assets realized, you have various assets which you must have realized, right? So write down in order. It is not necessary again to write down in order. I'll just copy whatever is given, 5 assets with their new values, right? So first I am having is land and building. You can write down in any order. It is not a compulsion, but you need to write down all the 5 assets. Then you have machinery. Value also I am saying 1,35,000, so that you can write down simultaneously. Next is investments. Investments is 50,000 rupees. Stock 25,000. Debtors 40,000. Debtors is 40,000 rupees, right? So what you need to do is, apart from this, no other information is given regarding any assets, right? So what you need to do is do the total of this assets realized, because liquidators remuneration is to be paid on this only, students. So I am getting a total of 5 lakh rupees, right? So 5 lakh I'll write down in the outer column. 5 lakh rupees is the total of assets realized, right? Our steps remains the same, students. In every sum, we first calculate the cash balance, we write down, then we calculate the assets realized. Then on the receipt side, again one more information is given in this sum that you need to understand, right? The amount on calls in arrears on C equity share is received. Now the amount on calls in arrears, if you see, it is 10,000 rupees, right? It is received. So what we'll write down on the receipt side, you have received 10,000 rupees, students, right? So to calls in arrears, on C equity share, because the type name is given ABC. C equity 10,000 rupees. I hope it is clear to every student. The calls in arrears on C equity share, that is 10,000 rupees. I hope everyone clear till here. Fine. So receipt side, so far whatever was given, we have written that part. Now we'll be starting on the payment side, right? On the payment side, the very first thing, it comes your liquidation expenses, right? We can write here, there is no secured creditors. As we found out in the balance sheet, there was no secured creditors. So generally first comes by secured creditors, but here no secured creditors are given. So we'll be starting very first with the by liquidation expenses. Again, students, practice this sum twice at your home. If you know this sum, your chapter is done. By liquidation expenses are given in the adjustments. I can find out liquidation expenses amounted to rupees 5,000. So write down on the payment side, the very first thing, by liquidation expenses 5,000 rupees, right? Now you have to pay, students, after liquidation expenses, you have to pay liquidators remuneration. So quickly I'll be writing by liquidators remuneration, by liquidators remuneration, right? Here you need to pay two types of remuneration, students, right? One is to be paid on the assets realized, and the second is to be paid on unsecured creditors, right? Now unsecured creditors here itself means, as I told in the last lecture also, now you have to consider unsecured and preferential creditors both, right? So they have to be considered. So what I'll do is I'll write down, first I need to pay 4% on assets realized. How much is my assets realized, students? We have found out 5 lakh rupees, right? So 4% on 5 lakh gives me the answer of 20,000 rupees, right? So 20,000 is my remuneration on your assets realized. Is it clear? Fine. Moving on. Next is 2%. Now 2% on unsecured creditors and preferential creditors. Amount I am not having right now, students. So what I'll do is I'll keep the space blank. You can leave 2 lines. Then we can write down, right? Leave 2 lines for this. Then we can solve it once we get the amount of your preferential creditors. Fine. Moving on. After you pay this, you pay to preferential creditors, right? So after leaving two lines, I'll write down by preferential creditors, by preferential creditors, right? Now here students, what do you include in preferential creditors, right? So we will do again for this particular sum a working so that you understand each and every point. When you revise this thing also, you can also leave around 8 to 10 lines after the sums format, and then we can start with the working. So in working, I am calculating the amount of unsecured creditors and preferential creditors too, right? So working note number 1, preferential creditors, you can find this amount again. So when we go through the balance sheet students, what do you include in preferential creditors, right? The very first thing I can find out is the provident fund, right? Because outstanding debentures will go to debentures, provident fund will be 15,000 rupees. Provident fund will be 15,000 rupees, right? Second thing I can see is outstanding salary for 3 months, right? Yes, definitely outstanding salary for 3 months is also a preferential creditors. We had seen various kinds of limit of 20,000 and all, right, for per employee, but here it is less than limit, so we'll consider the total amount, right? Next students is given outstanding income tax. Now here two type of income tax are given, but our notes and our points for the sum says that only take the income tax or any tax payable to government for the last year or previous year, right? So if you can see your year is 18-19, so I can say previous year is 17-18, right? So only consider 2000, that is income tax for previous year. That will be your preferential creditors. Apart from that, creditors, bills payable, nothing will come, right? Do the total. When you do the total, you will get the answer of preferential creditors is equals to 21,500. 21,500 is your answer for preferential creditors, right? I hope there is no doubt in that. If you are clear with the points, then it is very easy for you. So again, after your preferential creditors, we'll be finding out the amount for unsecured creditors too, right? So how much is the unsecured creditors, so that in the sum directly you can post the amount in on the payment side. Now unsecured creditors will be all your remaining creditors which we have not taken. Remember students, outstanding interest will go with debentures, provident fund we have taken, outstanding salary also we have taken, outstanding income tax. So the tax which is remaining for the previous year, that will be taking outstanding income tax for 2016-17, 3500 rupees, right? 3500 rupees. Next is we'll be taking two remaining things which are given. One is creditors. Creditors is 35,000 rupees. Is it clear? And next is your bills payable. Bills payable is 15,000 rupees, right? I hope it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Do the total of this, right? How much total you are getting? You will be getting 53,500 rupees. Is the total of unsecured creditors, right? I hope it is clear to each and every student. So whatever is given, just you need to bifurcate it into various amounts, right? Now on this amount, you will be paying the liquidator's remuneration, right? Is it clear to each and every student, right? So liquidator's remuneration will be paid on the amount of your, again we can say 75,000, fine? So from your working, first we will post the amount and then we will calculate the liquidator's remuneration. I can say by preferential creditors, in the bracket write down working note number 1, because you have gained the amount from working note number 1, 21,500. I suppose it is clear to each and every student, fine. Now before moving on to liquidator's remuneration, don't forget to pay to debenture holders also, and again to the unsecured creditors also, right? So what I'll do is I'll write down by debenture holders. By debenture holders. Now students, as I told in the discussion only, there are three types of amount to be paid to your debenture holders. In that, the very first is the principal amount. As you can see in the sum, principal amount is rupees, we can say how much it is, debentures, 2 lakh rupees, right? So write down 2 lakh rupees is the principal amount plus outstanding interest given in the balance sheet, 15,000 rupees, plus additional interest. How much is additional interest? Our balance sheet is still 31,319. In the previous to previous sum also we did the same thing. We are paying it on 30th June. So 3 months is my additional interest, right? So calculate on 3 months. How you can calculate, students? 2 lakh into 15% into 3 divide by 12, right? 2 lakh into 15% into 3 divide by 12. So you will be getting the answer of 7,500, right? Now do the total of all this thing. So you will be getting in outer column 2,22,500 rupees. So 2,22,500 rupees is my answer for debenture holders. I hope each and everyone is clear with this part. Now, as you all know, after you pay to debenture holders, you pay to unsecured creditors, right? So by unsecured creditors, the amount you have already found out in your working note number 2, that is 53,500 rupees, right? So I'll write down by unsecured creditors 53,500. Now students, once you have reached at the point of unsecured creditors, you need to pay remuneration, right? Now 2% remuneration is to be paid on unsecured creditors and preferential creditors, right? So what I'll do is 2% on both the amount. How much it is? 21,500 plus 53,500. So do the total, 53,500 plus 21,500 into 2%, right? I hope it is clear. So what amount you are getting? That is 1,500 rupees. 1,500 rupees is the amount to be paid on unsecured creditors and preferential creditors. Clear till here, everyone? Fine. Now, once you have paid till unsecured creditors, right, you need to check first whether the company is able to pay the amount or not, right? So here I can see, do the total of the receipt side, that is 10,000 plus 5 lakh plus 10,000. So 5 lakh 20,000 minus 5,000 minus, you have 20,000 minus 1,500 minus 21,500 minus 2,22,500 minus 53,500, right? So this is your 1,96,000. I am getting the balance, right? But you need to pay to various shareholders, preference shareholders also you need to pay. So for that we'll be seeing the amount which can be called up from your equity shareholders, right? So what you need to do is come to the, again we can say the working, right? So you need to first understand how much amount is to be paid to preference shareholder, students. It is 2,000 shares of 10 each, that is your 2 lakh rupees, right? Of it is 100 each, but it is 2 lakh rupees. So what you need to do is you need to pay to preference shareholders, and the balance which we solved in the last sum also, similarly we'll be finding the deficiency of capital, which shareholders will be calling and which shareholders will be returning. Fine. So just write down here by preference shares, how much it is? 2 lakh rupees. By preference shares, 2 lakh rupees. I hope it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Now what you need to do is you need to find out some amount, that how much the equity shareholder will return and how much the equity shareholder will pay if necessary, right? The most important part of the sum. This is for what the sum is all about, right? So just understand it very carefully, what is being given in the sum and how you are gonna solve it. Fine. So this is my working note number 3, you can say. Working note number 3. What you need to do is you need to total up, as we did just now on calculator, total of receipt. Total of my receipt came to 5,20,000 rupees so far. Hope it's clear. Next is, from this deduct all the amounts made up to unsecured creditors, right? Because we are finding the total amount to be paid to preference share also and equity share also. So payments up to unsecured creditors. So payment up to unsecured creditors, if you do the total comes to your, again we can say 3,24,000 rupees, right? Just now we did it. That is your accept preference shares 5,000 plus 20,000 plus 1,500 plus 21,500 plus 222,500 plus 53,500. So my answer comes to 3,24,000. So write down here payments up to unsecured creditors 3,24,000 rupees, right? So if I deduct it, I had 5,20,000 rupees. From that, I deducted 3,24,000 rupees. So I have a surplus of 1,96,000 rupees, right? This is the surplus at present I am having it. But I need to pay to preference shareholders also of 2 lakh rupees and to equity shareholders also, right? So again, how much do I require to pay to all the shareholders paid up capital? So please write down amount to be paid includes your 2 lakh rupees of preferential capital, right, plus 1 lakh rupees of A type equity shares plus 1 lakh rupees of B type equity shares plus 1,20,000 of C type equity share, right? So I'm writing it for your knowledge so that you don't get confused. 2 lakh rupees for preference shares, 1 lakh rupees for A type, 1 lakh rupees for B type, and 120 for C type, right? Is it clear, all of you? So this is the total amount I need to pay to all the stakeholders, that is shareholders. Then my total amount, if you do, my total amount comes to your 5,20,000 rupees, right? Out of this 5,20,000 students, I am having the surplus amount. How much is my surplus amount? We calculated 1,96,000 rupees. So 5,20,000 minus 1,96,000 gives me the deficiency, that is 3,24,000 rupees is my deficiency, we say it, right? Why deficiency? Because you need to pay, simple logic is you need to pay 5,20,000, but you have only 1,96,000 in hand, right? So how much is my deficiency? Is 3,24,000 rupees, right? So I hope everyone is clear till here. Just go through the points once again. What we have done, we have paid up to unsecured creditors, then we have found out the total receipt. From that we deducted total payments up to unsecured creditors, then whatever we are having is the surplus. Then we found out the total capital amount to be paid to preference shareholders also and equity shareholders also, right? Out of that we deducted the surplus and we found out the deficiency. Hope it is clear to each and every type of student. Fine. Now how we have to pay, right? In the previous sum the face value was different, I suppose, but here when the face value is same, every share is having the face value of 100, right? So how to divide this capital deficiency? Now remember students, when the face value of all the shares is equal, they will be divided in the ratio of number of shares, right? So I'll write down for your knowledge that when you also note this point very carefully, when the face value of shares is equal, when the face value of shares is equal, then the deficiency is divided in the ratio of number of shares, right? So here you can see what is the ratio. Number of shares is 1,000, 2,000 and 3,000. So my ratio comes to 1:2:3, If it is clear to each and every student, we can move further, right? What is my ratio, students? It is 1:2:3. Is it clear to all the students? Fine. So 1:2:3 is my total ratio for payment. Fine. Okay. So what we need to do is, now we need to find out the actual capital deficiency of rupees 324 and divide it into the ratio of 1:2:3. So what I'll do is, I'll divide the deficiency of rupees 3,24,000, right? So I'll write down total. All this working forms part of your answer, students. So just complete this part also, so that you can not lose marks, right? Because every working is having certain percentage of weightage in the entire sum. Total deficiency 3,24,000. I'll just write down according to your shareholders. You have A, you have B, you have C, right? So the ratio you are having 3,24,000 into 1/6. How 1/6? 1 plus 2 plus 3 gives me 6, right? 3,24,000 into 2/6. 3,24,000 into 3/6, right? So you'll get the deficiency of each and every type of preference shares, each and every type of equity shares, I suppose, right? Okay, so what is my deficiency if I found out? First is 54,000. It will be doubled up, 1,08,000 plus 54,000 more. So 1,62,000, right? This is the capital deficiency of equity shares, students, I have found out, right? Now how much amount is to be called up or returned, right? Because for certain people, if deficiency is 54,000, we are having 1 lakh rupees of them. Some people deficiency is 1,08,000 and we are having only 1 lakh rupees. So what we'll do, we'll call 8,000 from them. For some people deficiency is 1,62,000, but their actual amount paid is 120. So you will receive 42,000 from them, right? Simply logic is, how much is the deficiency, how much money you are having, difference either you have to call or either you have to return, right? So we'll move on to the next step, that is amount to be. Just go in the same system for every sum, students, it will be helpful to you. Amount to be called or returned. Amount to be called or returned, right? So for A type of shares, B type of shares and C type of shares, how much is the paid up value of A type of shares? 1 lakh. Paid up value of B type of share, 1 lakh. Paid up value of C type of share, now it is 120, right? Don't get confused between 110. We have received 10,000 rupees from them. How much is the deficiency? 54,000, 1,08,000 and 1,62,000. So if I say 1 lakh minus 54,000, right, gives me the value of how much? 46,000 rupees. Is it a positive value? Yes. I have to take, my deficiency is 54,000, but I am having the money of 1 lakh, so 46,000 return, right? I suppose it is clear. My deficiency is 1,08,000. I have only 1,000. So what I'll do is 8,000 difference I will call. My deficiency is 1,62,000. I have only 120, right? 1,20,000. So 42,000 call. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Now this we will be posting in the liquidator statement, right? So on the debit side, write down to B equity share. To B equity share, how much will you call, students? 8,000 rupees. To C equity share, how much will you call? 42,000 rupees. Is it clear? Fine. And how much will you return to A type of equity share by A equity share? By A equity share, how much will you return? 46,000 rupees. I hope it is clear to each and every type of students. Fine. Now what you will do is do the total of receipt, do the total of payment. We will see whether it is getting tallied or not. Fine. So 10,000 plus 5 lakh plus 10,000 plus 8,000 plus 42,000, right? So I am getting the total of 5,70,000 rupees. So write down on the total 5,70,000 rupees. Total is 5,70,000 rupees, right? That is my receipt side total. On the payment side, I'll do 5,000 plus 20,000. We had already done also, but again I am doing it. So I am getting, students, the total of 5,70,000, which is equal to the total of your receipt side. So on the payment side also, I'll write this down, right? The only thing important to know is this entire steps. It is the most important you understand, right? Again, revise the students the sum twice at your home. All this you know, only thing to know is this part, right? Regarding your capital. So I suppose each and everyone is clear with the sum. Fine. That's all for today. This is VNSGU 2019, students, that we solved just now, right? Again, the most important sum, 3 times to 4 times asked in your exam. You need to revise it. Again, one more sum I have given you. It is a short sum. You need to practice it at home, right? Next lecture we will solve that sum. If you have done that sum, you can tally your answer with that. Those who are not able to understand, we are going to complete it. Fine. Again, next week I'll be providing you practice sums for this chapter along with the solution, that is answers. You need to solve it, and then if any queries you can put up in Google Classroom. Next week we'll be concluding this chapter. Next 3 lectures I'll be taking for this. Then we'll be concluding and we'll be starting with the next chapter of your syllabus, right? Any queries, any doubts, you can put up in Google Classroom. Any point of time, we are here to help you out. Thank you everyone for your attention. Take good care of yourself. See you in the next lecture. This is Professor Shaurya Shah teaching you Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2. Thank you for your attention, students. Take care.